So Christian Benford got hurt during the game. Russell Douglas, who they traded for the trade deadline, did not play because he got hurt in week 18, and he's probably the underrated trade deadline best pickup over the last over the 2023 season. But I mentioned all that to say, and you guys talked about it earlier, Kyrie Elam had an interception. Prior to that, the first round pick from a couple years ago, he was getting absolutely roasted. And I think his big thing has been confidence because he's long, he's fast, and that was his first round pick for a reason. But he has been on the bench and buried on the bench for much of the season. He may have to end up playing because they lost Bernard, the linebacker. Benford, I mentioned, left. Dotson, the linebacker, also left, and Rasul didn't play. And that's a concern. Breach, would you like to take an AJ Klein victory lap before we continue with the issues with with the injuries?
Do we load up this like video clip? By the way, what a beautiful March 2020 take where Breach is like AJ Klein is going to change the AFC East and the Bills will run it for the next half decade. But he hasn't been wrong since AJ Klein.
And
got
Breach,
there.
let me preface it by saying this: AJ Klein had his RV packed up, was ready to go on a vacation, and he came out of retirement to whoop up on the Steelers.
And that is what I was going to say. We're talking about a guy,
AFC East Super Bowl, four-time AFC East champion, AJ Klein.
AJ Klein, a guy who was not even supposed to play at this point last week. He was not on the Bills roster. He was not going to be playing in this game. As Wilson said, he had his RV packed. He was going to drive to Key West, Florida, and watch the playoffs while on vacation. They called him up because there was an injury, and he said, "Sure, yeah, I'll play." And then had a huge game. And he, I think like 3 years ago, I was like, the Bills signed AJ Klein. It's such a huge deal because at that point, every team he had ever played for made the playoffs when he was on the team. And he's a little good luck charm who is a solid role player. And that's what he is. And now they're going to the divisional. So
Wilson,
here we are.
Revenge game for AJ Klein. Shut up.
I might have to get the AJ Klein jersey in here.
That's right. Panthers made the playoffs. Actually, that's wrong. They didn't make the playoffs in 2016 when he was on there. But
so
your point remains.
Any concerns about the injuries that we've talked about, mostly on the defensive side of the ball? I don't think there were any guys on offense that left off the top of my head. I haven't looked at any post-game comments about that. But I would imagine being down two linebackers and two cornerbacks, although Rasul Douglas might be able to play this week, and we'll see where Benford is not great news when you're facing even a Chiefs team that only has a handful of great receivers instead of 5 or 6.
Any guesses on the spread? And yeah, the injuries matter for sure. I think you got to wait and see exactly what the long-term stuff is. The Chiefs feel like they're in better shape health-wise, but the Bills are in better shape form-wise, which is like a sort of a golf.
You guys were talking up the Chiefs.
No. I'm just saying recent form. The Bills are, you would take, if you're saying who's been playing better since December 1, you would take the Bills over the Chiefs, and the Bills beat the Chiefs in that time span. What do you think the spread here is? This is not brain surgery. I'm just curious what you think.
You want to guess first, Breach? Because wins over Wilson has it locked in.
I would say the Bills are favorites. I remember the spread was close when they played in Kansas City. 1.5 Buffalo.
Oh, that's what wins over Wilson's at. -1.5.
What?
Bills -2.5, heavily juiced. Like it wants to go to 3, which is, I think it'll just sit at 2.5 with heavy juice all week, personally, unless something major happens injury wise. How is this not a field goal game? Like somebody, Mahomes or Allen's going to have the ball with a chance to drive and kick a game winning field goal. I think
they're daring you, Brenton. They're daring you. That's why they're not making a field game.
What do you think the total is?
The one interesting thing, though, and it comes with trying to put this point spread together, is not just that the Bills are dealing with injuries, but the Chiefs are getting 2 full days of rest more than the Bills, which is not common for a lower seed to do that, especially going on the road against the better seed. I mean, obviously, if you're the 7th seed and you're playing the 1 seed, you got dealt your own hand. You dug your own grave because you barely got in the playoffs. And obviously the 49ers getting, 2 weeks of rest on the Packers. But in this situation where both teams had to play the wild card round, the Bills got beat up and the Chiefs getting those 2 days of rest could be a big deal. I mean, it's 8 days versus 6 days. So that's something to think about too.
Something else to think about is,
it's Patrick Mahomes' first road playoff game in his career.
Here, 1 second. There's something else to think about in terms of the Bills is that the interior defensive line, Daquan Jones was back. Ed Oliver was getting after it. And I just looked this up. The Bills pressured poor Mason Rudolph 47% of the snaps. They only blitzed on 17% of the snaps. So they were getting home with 4 guys. And that's just something to keep in mind when you talk about the Chiefs, because the Steelers, for as many holes as they have all over the place, their offensive line has been okay last month and a half, 2 months. And we've had some issues, especially on the edge with the Chiefs offensive line. Ed Oliver generated a season-high 10 pressures on 28 pass rushes, according to Next Gen Stats, against the Steelers. The most pressures by a defensive tackle in a playoff game over the last 6 years. 6 of those came against Mason Cole, the center, who's been a weak spot of that offensive line. But I just wanted to point that out.